Welcome back to the Tapes Archive podcast, where we release interviews that have never been heard before. In this episode, we have the Doors guitarist, Robby Krieger. At the time of this interview, in 1991, Krieger was 45 years old and was promoting his own band, the Robby Krieger Band. In the interview, Krieger talks about his thoughts on Oliver Stone's movie, The Doors, why Doors keyboardist Ray Manzarek wanted nothing to do with the film, and how he thinks Jim Morrison should be remembered.
Crucified and inspected and resurrected and
As always, we have music critic Mark Allen at the helm conducting the interview. If you'd like to support the show, please like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. There, we post other content and information not available on the podcast. If you'd like to read the transcripts for any of our episodes, please head over to our website at thetapesarchive.com. We'll jump into the interview after a quick word from our sponsors. The Tapes Archive is proud to be sponsored by the true crime documentary Dead Man's Line.
You've got 100 armed officers around here trying to get a shot at me. I dared them to shoot me. I didn't go down there to be a buffoon. I went down there for vengeance. And by God, I'll have vengeance.
In 1977, Tony Kuritzis kidnapped a mortgage broker and held him captive for 3 days. For the first time ever, the media was able to cover the event live. To some, Tony was a hero. To others, he was a crazed thug. Dead Man's Line, the true story of Tony Kuritzis.
This award-winning film is available exclusively on Amazon Prime. One last thing before we get to the interview, the Tapes Archive podcast is a proud member of Osiris Media, a global community connecting passionate fans with podcasts and experiences about artists and topics you love. Thanks for tuning in, and now it's time to open the vault.
You have some time to talk to me now, or do you want to reschedule?
I could give you about 10 minutes now, or I could reschedule it.
Let's see how far we get, okay? Your bio says that you have become the unheralded first to do what later became the standard for guitarists. Hyperbole, or can you cite some instances?
Say that again, what did it say?
It says, you become the unheralded first to try what later becomes the standard.
I think they're talking more about the Doors than me. I think other people, other bands sounding like us, and the type of stuff we write. And although I think guitar-wise, I was one of the first to use the slide. I think quite a few guys copied my style too.
The slide in rock guitar, you mean?
Yeah.
Do you think you're recognized for what you contributed as a guitarist?
Well, among guitar players, maybe so. I don't think so, because Morrison got most of the limelight from the Doors, and the other three guys didn't really get as much attention as we would have had we been in a more normal group.
I want to cover a couple of things before we get into the Doors. Also, No Speak Records. Why did you decide to make a No Speak album?
It sort of fit in with what I had been doing anyway. I've been making sort of rock, jazz, kind of instrumental albums over the past 10 years. Anyway, it seemed like a logical thing to do to me, since I didn't have Jim to write for anymore. I figured I'd just go instrumental.
And in your new band, you're playing with your son. Is that good?
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I wish I had a dad who had a band when I was starting out.
Did your dad encourage your playing in a band?
Not really.
No? When he saw it?
Didn't discourage it, but, he wanted me to become a lawyer or something like that.
Are there times where you wish you had become a lawyer?
No.
No? Oh, well, that's good. Is this the first band that you've gone back to playing some Doors tunes with?
Not really. I've always done some Doors stuff, with whatever band I've been in. Well, not always, but I'd say in the past 10 years or so anyway.
Okay. Let's talk about the movie for a bit. What did you think of it?
Well, I think it's, for what it is, I think it's real good. I looked at it like a real good video.
Okay.
To me, there wasn't really enough there to make a real meaningful Hollywood movie out of. But I think there was enough stuff there just visually and musically to make an interesting movie. Oliver did a real good job, I thought.
Yeah, well, it looks more like a video than a movie, actually. Yeah. So you're pretty nice to it compared to at least what I've heard Ray Manzarek say about it. I mean, he just scorched the thing.
Right. Well, he decided not to be involved with it at all, and it's real easy to knock something that you weren't any part of. In a way, it's like sour grapes, I guess.
Have you talked to him?
I say that because I decided to go ahead and be involved with it and try to make it help it become as good as possible. Whereas Ray just went the other way and said, "No, I'm not going to have anything to do with it. This is fucked," which is pretty weird because Ray has been the one that always wanted to do this movie, and I've never wanted to do it. And finally, we got Oliver Stone, so I said, "Shit, all right, let's go ahead and make it as good as we can." And Ray bailed out.
Have you talked to Ray about it?
Not much.
No reason to. Yeah.
No.
In the movie, you guys are always, pretty much always shown looking at Morrison and scowling. Is that what you did?
Sometimes.
I kind of got the impression watching this movie that it should have been called Jim Morrison's Wretched Excesses, instead of The Doors, because even though you guys were a big part of the band, obviously, basically they just had you looking at the guy.
Right, yeah. Well, that was, I'm sure, Ray's main complaint with the movie, and we knew that's how it was going to be, because that's what the major attraction of the Hollywood movie is, hey, there's this crazy guy we can portray, and, whereas the Doors fans would love to see the other guys and how the songs were made and the studio and all that. They figure, well, the people will love to see this crazy asshole. That's why I never wanted to make the movie. But I figured that if people can get some idea of what it was like to be at a Doors show, and they can hear, the songs and have some nice visuals put to them, then that's better than nothing, And somebody was going to make this movie anyway, one way or the other, without us or with us.
Did they have to have your permission?
Well, to use the songs, they did. The thing is, they could have done something like The Rose, where they take some of the songs that we didn't write, that we did, like Backdoor Man. They can do those, and they can take and have some guys write some songs that sort of sound like some Doors songs. And, that would be ridiculous. But they would do it.
What's the truth about the Doors? You were there, and you know it as well as anybody. I mean, what's the attraction? Why are they still, why are the Doors still popular 20 years later? And what's the truth? What really happened? I know that could be a very long answer, but...
Well, I think part of it is that, we really were not part of the 60s band trip, flower power and all that. We weren't into that. We were either ahead of our time or behind our time or something, but, I think that's why people relate to us now, because we were sort of different, more psychological, more universal in the way we wrote songs. Our sound was different. Our sound even was more like today's sound in that, because Ray had to play the bass at the same time as the organ, he ended up playing these very hypnotic things that were easy for him to play. And it was sort of like today's sequence stuff, very hypnotic, maybe not danceable like your dance music of today, but I think it had the same effect on people. And but it was mainly the words. They really came from deep within rather than being about, local subjects or trivial subjects.
There's this new book, Jim Morrison, Dark Star by Dylan Jones, which is kind of a, just a picture book more or less, but the guy has a phrase that I kind of like. I wonder if you think this is accurate. He says Jim Morrison was a pop genius but an amateur human being.
I think, in a way, he was way ahead of anybody else as being a human being. But in other ways, he was a retard. He could be a real asshole. But that wasn't Jim. That was the other, the crazy guy that came out when Jim got drunk. But Jim wasn't drunk all the time. He could be the greatest guy you ever met in your life, which, even if that was only once a week, that was enough to get you through the other 6 days.
Okay. So he could sustain himself on being nice once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that I thought was really flawed in the movie was that, you guys made 8 records in about 4 years. And, obviously he couldn't have been going off and just going nuts all the time, because 8 records in 4 years is a lot of product.
Well, that's the thing is, when Jim was working, he was at his best. And he was never missed a show, even though it seemed like in the movie that he was always, late or, and many times we were worried that he might not make it. But he always did. And the reason for that was because that was what he lived for. That was, playing was what he loved the best. And that's when we were at our best, all the personal shit aside, when we were playing, we were great. At first, we got along great, and Jim was great, but, as the drinking wore on, it got harder and harder to live with, but when we were playing, it was always great.
Is it true that you guys talked to Iggy Pop about joining the band after Jim died?
No.
No, okay.
We considered getting another guy, but after thinking about it, we decided not to.
Did you find it tough to make records after Jim died, as far as Doors records, I mean?
Yeah, we did, but, the first record we made after Jim died was
Other Voices.
Other Voices, yeah. And that one, see, when Jim had gone to Paris, the three of us kept on, writing and rehearsing stuff, and, we expected Jim would be back. When he didn't come back, we just sort of went ahead and, we don't want to waste this stuff. We'll just go ahead and put it out as the Doors without Jim, see what happens. But what happened was, after Jim had died, the three of us ended up totally not being able to get along. And, when Jim was alive, it was like he balanced the three of us perfectly. And it's like everybody seemed to it was the perfect balance of personality. But when Jim was gone, that balance was gone, and we just couldn't get along.
It's really a shame that that's not reflected at all in the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
2 hours and 15 minutes, you'd think you could get some of that in there. Maybe cut out one of the drunken binges or something in favor of that.
Yeah.
A couple other things, I'll let you go. Do you feel like the Doors have come to symbolize the 60s in any respect?
Not really. Like I say, we weren't really a product of the 60s. We were more universal than that. When I think of the 60s, I think of the Mom and Pop as Buffalo Springfield or something like that. The Doors were kind of an anomaly. We didn't really belong in any time frame, I don't think.
You seem to cope pretty well with the attention and the fact that, I'm sure that you've done about 1 million interviews since this movie came out. Does it ever bother you? Do you just say, geez, I wish, I could put this aside and, be Robby Krieger, guitar player and head of my own band, and kind of forget that?
Well, I used to think that way, years ago, but I realized that the Doors is bigger than any of us, and it's not. That only happens once in a lifetime, and not to many people. So, I don't mind it. It's an honor to be in one of the Doors.
Yeah, but is it? I just wonder if it's, you realize that it's over, and it's been over for like 20 years now. And, I just wonder if it's tough to know that you can't go back to that, and that you can't achieve that again.
Like I said, it used to bother me, but I don't expect to achieve that again. I don't know if I would want to again.
Okay. 2 other things. Do you think music today is better or worse than when the Doors were around?
Worse.
Why?
I hate to blame it on the business, but I don't know where else to blame it should fall. I think partly it's because, the whole rock star thing has gotten out of hand. Everybody wants to be a rock star, and therefore anybody who has the money and the desire can become a rock star, no matter what talent you have. And talent has become secondary, and therefore there's a glut of lousy music out there, and and record companies don't know what's good or bad. Therefore, how should the public know?
That's a pretty good answer to it, yeah. And lastly, what should be the real memory that people have of Jim Morrison?
Well, I'm afraid it'll be, this movie will be the way he's remembered, but which might not be that bad. I mean, he could be a lot worse than in the movie, too, but then again, he could be a lot nicer guy. I wish everybody could know him the way I knew him before the drinking, and when we were writing those first songs, and in the early days. And, maybe I'll write a book someday, which I'll make a movie out of.
Yeah, that would be nice. Did Val Kilmer do a good job portraying
Yeah, he really did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever look at it and think, geez, this guy, we could get back together again with Val Kilmer singing?
Yeah, it was scary sometimes how much he was like Jim.
Yeah, but people forget that he can imitate him all he wants, but he can't write the songs or participate in the songs. Anyway, well, that's what I needed, and I appreciate your taking the time. I'm glad we had a chance to talk.
All right, man, good.
Thanks, Robert.
I'd like to see the article.
Yeah, I'm going to drop Linda a copy when it's done. It should be out sometime next week.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Tapes Archive podcast. Please remember you can always find more information about the show and the individual episodes at our website, thetapesarchive.com. Until next time, the vault is closed.